the tunes that we're going to hear today are marches, and that in fact forms the biggest bulk of pipe music and the most popular. And so we have lots of 2/4 tunes, 3/4 retreat airs, slow marches, and best of all, the competition type march. The piper today is an expert in all this music, as in fact he is in all branches of pipe music. He's from Strathclyde Police Pipe Band, but he comes via South Uist and Bute. He is Angus MacLellan. Well, Angus, that was a nice tune.
Thanks very much.
Good in here.
Thank you.
Quite an old tune, though.
Yes, the Highland Wedding is one of our original competition-type marches, which, of course, was arranged by Angus Mackay.
Yes, but it's not the kind of tune that you would expect to march along the road to or play in a band except in a competition.
No, you'd hardly get an army band or anybody who's going along the road playing the Highland Wedding. More likely to be a 6/8 march or something like that.
6/8's have a good swing. Well, would you like to play a 6/8 just to let us hear
Certainly
the difference?
Is there anyone in particular you'd like to hear?
Now, if I pull one out of the bag and you can't play
You
it...
might search the memory.
Let me take a popular one. Dovecote Park?
Oh, you're really going deep there, aren't you? Well, we'll try Dovecote Park then, James. OK.
Marches were developed in the army 200 years ago when the British government had the bright idea that they could raise Highland regiments from the Jacobite clans, and this proved very successful. The trouble was that the pipers didn't play anything useful for the army. They played pibroch, which was interesting, but that you couldn't really do much to that with soldiers. And so it was suggested to them that they should play marches the way the fifers played in the English regiments. So the pipers looked around for something to do. They tried to jazz up pibroch, and that wasn't a great success, except perhaps for the pibroch of Donaldoo, which is still a popular march today. Better for them, however, was the little songs or Gaelic airs which they put on the pipes. And so we got High Road to Gairloch, Highland Laddie, and Brown-Haired Maiden, and so forth. Then later they developed the 6/8 type of march, which is much better for marching to, I think, such as Dovecote Park. Well done, Angus. Have a seat. It is, I think, pretty clear these 6/8s have a better swinging rhythm, you know, for marching than the 2/4.
Oh, yes, they're definitely more suited to the on-the-march thing.
Yes. Could I just check, you know, although you play the drones that peculiar way on the right shoulder,
You're the correct way.
you're not really left-handed.
No, not at all. I think I may have been at one time and was made to change at school.
But do you people think that that's the right way?
Oh, of course. Oh, yes.
And all the rest of us are wrong.
Oh, well, I mean, even history proves that.
Well, it's a wee bit late for me to change, so I'll stay where I am. Well, you know, apart from 6/8s, there's been a lot of good other time tunes composed, you know. 4/4s have become quite popular with pipe bands, haven't they?
Yes, they're a bit, you know, they're a kind of 2/4 eased off a bit, if you like.
Yes.
But they are very popular.
How about playing as a 4/4?
Well, I think I'd like to play one that's become quite popular called Murdo's Wedding. It was composed by Gavin Stoddart, who was a fairly young man.
Oh, yes, well, he's still a fairly young man. Very good. This applause I'm giving you is purely because I can't help doing it, you know, if a piper plays well. But I remember one time you were doing recording for a broadcast, and I think a little child of the producer came up and listened to it all and went home and told their daddy that you weren't much of a player because nobody clapped after you played.
She should have been around the games. That often happens.
Nobody clapped.
Oh, I heard one time of 2 judges that clapped for a certain piper and said that was good enough for second anyway.
And he was the first man to compete.
He was first to compete.
That was poor John McFadgen.
It was,
good enough for second.
Yeah.
Well, no doubt it was good enough for second, although not first. Other time signatures that they put in, the one that I think is rather surprising is this 5/4. It's amazing to me that it works, but it isn't really, you know, it seems to me it just lengthened the last note.
The beat is elongated quite a bit to make it
So
that. So it really would be 6/4 in some senses.
Yeah. 9/8, that's one which it doesn't seem to me to be
popular.
given much exposure.
No, but it's becoming more popular, particularly in the field of the bands.
Yes.
And funny enough, some of the older tunes, like the Battle of the Somme, was a 9/8.
Well, I was going to say that. I think that the drawback to 9/8 is nobody can produce anything as good as the Battle of the Somme.
Possibly. Well, that's a good tune, right enough.
Well, there's another cue for a tune for you, Angus.
You're working me hard here.
Why not? Good enough for first, Angus, that time. It's a great tune. It's a pity we don't know who composed it.
No, and it's become very popular of late. The dancing world use it for a dance called the lilt.
Oh, do they?
And it's very popular with them.
Yes.
Seems to have quite a nice rhythm for them.
Another tune that I wish, it's the same era, the First World War, Hills of Perth, you know.
Oh, yes,
Nobody knows who composed that.
It's one of these tunes I find that never quite made it as a competition tune, but the young people always start with it, and it's an excellent tune.
Oh, great
First-class
melody.
musical.
Yeah, a lot of tunes like that.
Oh, I like The Men of Argyll, that's another tune that never quite made it.
MacLellan's of Dunoon, yes. But he composed some excellent competition marches, and I think this is really what most of us find the greatest enjoyment in playing and listening to, the 2/4 competition type march.
Yeah, well, the 2/4 competition type march is peculiar to the bagpipe. It was constructed for the bagpipe, and although we hear other musicians playing it, they don't seem to get the same as the bagpipe gets from it. They certainly get a musical rhythm from it, but not this, you don't hear the embellishments or anything like that.
No, I think they picked the melody because usually the basis of a good 2/4 competition tune is it's got a good melody.
Yes.
But we cover up the melody very cleverly with all kinds of embellishments, so you can hardly hear it.
Some of us do.
Well, I mean, with young kids playing, of course, the difficulty is it takes them so long to do the embellishment that they take the time off the theme note and you don't hear it.
One of the strange things about 2/4 marches, Seumas, was that I noticed in looking back, it wasn't always necessarily good players who composed them. I mean, we had the G.S. MacLennans and the Willie Lawries and John McCalls, who were obviously great players.
Yes.
But there's other people made first-class tunes, and they weren't what was regarded as top-class pipers.
Yes. Well, I think John MacLellan Dunoon was not really a first class. Well, he wasn't a competing player anyway.
No, but as you said yourself, his compositions are of the highest standard.
Cowell Gathering is my favourite march, I believe, if it wasn't for the Braes of Castle Ground. Oh, yes, the place is full of wonderful marches, you know. Although, not recently. I mean, it was a great era of composition, probably. Well, Angus Mackay.
Yes, that was the start of it.
And then,
Hugh
of course,
Mackay.
Yes, and then coming up there was Willie Laurie and
Yeah.
John
The
McCall.
turn of the century was a great time, I think, when GS did it and then
Oh,
Willie
yeah.
Laurie. And we seemed to go through to about maybe the First World War. Then it was kind of, there was obviously individual marches composed. But the next one I remember, or I know of, or next two, was Willie Gray's Farewell to the Glasgow Police and Donald MacLean's Farewell to Oban, which were in the 30s.
Yes.
And after that, you know, it's getting, there is marches composed, but not in the same standard as
No.
Papa
And they tend to be
Glencoe.
repetitive, you know, you can hear a bit of another tune in
Yes.
them. Could we go back to the Angus Mackay thing? Because I think that's the most fascinating story about marches, is that out of nothing, practically, he developed these competition marches, composing Balmoral Highlanders and Bonnie Ann and Abercairnie Highlanders.
Yeah, these are really
all
great
these
tunes,
things,
yeah.
marvellous tunes. They're still, I mean, in the top 10 of popularity
That's
with
true,
competitors
yeah.
today.
I think, if you look at the one we started the programme with, Seumas, the Highland Wedding, I mean, look
Just
how
what I want to do.
it developed out of a simple
And that's your
tune.
chanter.
Oh, you nearly played a good one there.
It would be a pitch or two too high for me. No, I was just going to say, you do the difficult bit and I'll do the easy bit, you see, because it came from, what's it called?
Stumpy. Stumpy was it,
which the
yeah.
Northumbrian pipers still play a great
Yeah,
deal, you know,
yeah.
and some of the other bands too. Don't say I didn't play on this programme. Now, from that, can you do the Highland Wedding?
We got the generally accepted version, of course, is what Willie Ross had in his books, although there was other versions.
Reed's had one,
Reed's was
was
equally
near
as
that.
important. But the one most people play is what we started off with.
You've got a skirling chanter. I
Oh,
thought I
that
got
was,
the
I don't think it
good
was a
one
chanter.
after
I don't
all,
think it was a
isn't
chanter.
The second part even goes on. And so forth. And your bit goes...
Oh, ours is a little bit different there. We have.
Yes, but it's still very near to the melody,
Oh,
I
yes,
think
it's
you
the
got
same
that.
basic melody.
The great thing is he didn't have to compose. I don't think he did compose any original melodies, Angus Mackay. Because
I
you
can't
see,
think of any.
well, Bonnie Ann is supposed to come from a north of England country air, and so's Abercairnie Highlanders.
Yes,
and
yeah.
certainly the Balmoral Highlanders is just a lift from Miss Forrest for...
No, that was Blackmount Forest.
Blackmount Forest.
That was Blackmount
It's a lift
Forest.
from
That's
Miss Forrest for Well to Band.
fascinating thing about Balmoral Highlanders, Seumas, again looking back, I found in an old book, I think it was either Donald MacDonald's book or Willie Ross, Queen Victoria's Piper, they had the 6 parts,
Did
even
they?
when he printed
Did they?
that book. I mean, I thought the last 2 parts were a recent
I thought that
composition.
G.S. MacLellan composed them, but I
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
know.
now you find that book and there's a 6
See,
parts
Willie
in it.
Ross wouldn't accept the 5th and 6th. I remember one time playing in a competition at Newton Moor or something. Willie Ross was judging, and I used to play Balmoral Highlanders a lot, but I played 6 parts, and somebody fortunately told me before I went up, Willie doesn't like the 5th and 6th. So I went up and said I was going to play Balmoral Highlanders, and he sort of grunted, you know, and I said, but I only play 4 parts. That's right, boy, there are only 4 parts.
He only
So that
published
got me
4
on the
parts
prize
in his
list.
book.
The interest in 2/4 competition marches is maybe, I think, not so much in the bands as it used to be. I mean, Donald Cameron, for example, I remember the World Championship at Grangemouth, there was 7 out of the 12 bands played Donald Cameron
Well,
as a
that's
2/4
true.
march, but now they don't have to play.
Well,
Well, they do have to play in the
have
World
to,
Championship
yes.
only, but the rest of the world, you're not.
Certainly the selection has taken away a lot of playing in the competition type march, the 2/4 march, although the first grade bands still have to submit them for at least 2, sometimes 3 competitions a year. Funny thing, this year I noticed at the World's Championship in the Grade 1 competition, at least 3 or 4 bands had the Royal Scottish Pipers rented.
Oh, have they?
I noticed marches like that take a turn. For years it used to be Blackmount Forest, then it was Donald Cameron. And it seems to be Highland Wedding and Royal Scottish
Well,
Pipers.
I think what the bands do is if they see, especially the grade 2 and 3 bands, if they see a grade 1 band doing well with a tune, they go and get it. Or if they see them doing well with a pipe chant that's got no soul on it, they go get a pipe chant with a soul on it.
That's the new thing.
That saves money too.
You're right.
Okay, well now I think we should finish up with another 2/4 competition match. Maybe one of the more modern ones you mentioned in Angus.
Well, the ones, you know, that come of late that I like is, there was Major Mansion at Clachan-Trushell. I liked that because it was slightly different from the rest.
Yes.
Then there was the one Donald MacLeod made for my father, Donald MacLellan of Rossi. That's a nice one.
That's a good tune.
But probably the one that's been most successful is Donald MacLean's Farewell to Oban.
Yes.
That probably has been the one that stuck the course the longest.
Yes, that's a great tune, I think. Although, yes, I think that would be excellent. The reason I was slightly diffident about Donald MacLean's Farewell to Oban is that this tune was actually composed by the man who taught me to play the pipes, Archie MacNeill, who was also my uncle. The story behind it is quite interesting. He composed the tune in 1938, and like many composers, he had the tune, but he didn't have the name for it. Then at the Argyllshire gathering that year, Donald MacLean, who we called Wee Donald MacLean, now lives in Inverness, he was competing in the March to Spain Reel for former winners, and to my uncle's belief, he should have won it, but he didn't get a prize. And so, as a consolation, my uncle decided he would call the tune after him. And with this tune comes Angus MacLellan's final contribution to the Piper's tune, Donald MacLean's Farewell to Oban.